Graph time. During the George W. Bush administration, government spending went up a lot. This is government expenditures per capita, per American person, combines federal and state and local governments. Right? As you can see, it starts there when George W. Bush took office in 2001. And it wasn't like there was just some individual spike in spending that happened right after 9/11. It was a steady, huge increase over time. So per capita government spending was roughly 12 grand per person when W came into office. When he left office, it wasn't 12 grand anymore. It was 16 grand in government spending for every man, woman, and child in the country. That is a big, steep increase. For comparison's sake, if you look at Bill Clinton, who was in office for the same amount of time, Bill Clinton also saw spending rise, but compared to W, he kept spending under control. It did go up some during the Clinton years, but it really, as you can see, just takes off when it goes to Bush. Since President Obama has been in office, he's been better than both of them. He hasn't just held the reins like Clinton did. He has turned it around. He has, so far at least, bent the curve, brought spending down from where it was. At the per capita level, look, I know you don't believe me. President Obama has actually brought government spending down since he took office. So remember that. Bush, more spending. Obama, less spending. That is what is true.
It's clear the president's just not serious about cutting spending. But spending is the problem.
We've got to stop the president on this issue. He's an out-of-control train right now on spending.
The president remains committed to an agenda that calls for ever higher spending, a government that is out of control.
The president wants to pretend that spending isn't the problem.
It is a spending problem, and the president wants to increase taxes to continue the spending.
These Democrats are going to spend us right into bankruptcy. They're not serious about getting things under control and stopping the spending.
The White House is so unserious about cutting spending.
None of that is true. I mean, to the extent that true means attached to facts. I mean, here's spending under Bush. Here's spending under Clinton. Here's how spending has dropped under President Obama. These guys were not mad about George W. Bush's big spike in spending, but they have decided to get really mad at the guy who is fixing that. And that anger is weird enough on its own terms. It's weird enough that this Republican analysis of the problem is so divorced from reality. But what today's news reminded us is that it's not just the analysis that is weird. It's also the purpose of the analysis, what they are using this cockamamie backwards analysis to justify that is really deeply strange. For decades, raising the debt ceiling was something that Congress has been willing to do. Since the presidency of FDR, Congress has routinely voted to raise it, literally dozens of times. It is a normal part of American governing. It is the way we run the country and have for generations. You may not like it, but we use debt financing. We have had to raise the debt ceiling under every president in modern history. We have raised it 89 times just between 1939 and 2010. The only time we haven't had to raise it in recent years was at the very end of the Clinton administration when we started running a budget surplus. Remember that? But other than that, it's the kind of thing that happens as a matter of course. It is routine. But in 2011, Republicans in Congress decided that they weren't going to do it anymore. And that standoff where they said they weren't going to do it, this thing that had been done dozens of times before under Republican presidents and Democratic presidents before them, they weren't going to do it. The country could default on its debts. They didn't care. They were going to draw a line in the sand or whatever. That was an economic disaster when they made that decision. Check it out. This is job growth month to month in the year 2011. During that time when it's weirdly suppressed, see that big dip over the summer? Oh yeah, that was the fight over the debt ceiling. So when you hear business interests weighing in and saying, we agree with President Obama, the debt ceiling should not be an issue. It needs to be raised and stop fighting about it. They're looking back at 2011 and saying that's why. The Chamber of Commerce fights President Obama on everything. The Chamber of Commerce wants them to just raise the debt ceiling because not doing it is a ridiculous self-inflicted economic wound. Well, today Republicans have decided that we're not going to do in 2013 what they did in 2011. They decided that we are not going to have artificially depressed job growth and economic pain caused by Washington for one period of the year like we did in 2011. They decided today that we're now going to have that all the time. We're going to do that constantly. Yeah, today the House passed a bill to raise the debt ceiling, but they want to have us hit it again in a few months. They raised the debt ceiling for a few months. Instead of just doing this once for the year or for 2 years or in some more permanent way to avoid this self-inflicted economic wound, they voted today that we should do this constantly. Every few months, just have this happen over and over again. Because remember, Obama's a big spender. Yeah, Democrats are going along with this reluctantly. There were more Democratic votes against this than there were for this today. But this is what Republicans want to be the new normal. So whether or not you think there is constitutional support for trying to take this decision out of the hands of this Congress, what just happened today is the reason why people want to take this particular decision out of the hands of this Congress. For decades, Congress was capable of handling this decision. Apparently, that is not the case anymore.